Lady Nagant, the hired gun of MHA's latest arc and Deku's latest opponent. She's a character that's got a lot of hype behind her. She's posing a tough fight for Deku, is known for a godly accuracy, and most importantly, is the last person to do Hawks' job, with even Hawks warning Deku to run on sight. But what if Hawks was the one who had to fight Lady Nagant? And I'm not talking about Hawks after he got turned to roast chicken, I'm talking about Prime Hawks, all his feathers intact. After all, they were trained by the same people for the same purpose. So when it comes down to it, who's the better killer, and who would come out alive if they were to go head to head? That's exactly what we're going to discuss in today's video. Both of them are very impressive. Hawks boasts some of the greatest speed in the series, both with how quick he can fly and how quick he reached the top 10 spot in Japan's heroes. Equipped with one of the more versatile quirks in the series, he definitely earns the reputation he has. And Nagant is no different, with a quirk powerful enough to really pack a punch on the top tiers of MHA and with enough velocity in her bullets to keep Deku on his toes. Not to mention perfect accuracy from 3 kilometers away, and that part's just all skill. Plus, she has decent close combat skills when worst comes to worst. When getting into this fight, the first question we have to answer is whether or not Hawks can even do anything. Would he be able to react to and dodge Nagant's bullets? And if he can, would he be able to close the distance to go for the finisher? The only point of comparison we have for Nagant's bullets would obviously be Deku's interception of them. So how does Hawks compare to Deku? Well, we know for a fact that Hawks is faster than Endeavor. This is an important part of the high-end fight. And Endeavor is able to keep up with Shigaraki, if not for the fact that he was caught off guard by Shigaraki's array of quirks. Deku at 30% is able to perform similarly and only really overpowers Shigaraki when he punches with 100%. And we know Deku is still at 30% during his fight with Lady Nagant because when he goes for burst attacks, he utilizes 45% just like he did in the first war. So with all this in mind, it's reasonable to assume that Deku and Hawks are on similar tiers of speed. Now I know what you're thinking, what about danger sense? That's the only reason that Deku was able to even react to Nagant's bullets. Without it, he would have been done for from the beginning. But remember, Hawks' quirk is more than just speed. His feathers can all be controlled individually and are incredibly useful. Back when Hawks was a spy investigating the Paranormal Liberation Front, he was able to use a single feather that was sensitive enough to pick up on vibrations and let him hear an entire conversation. If Hawks sends out some of his feathers, he can basically have an early warning system that could pick up on the vibrations in the air before a bullet enters his line of sight. This isn't a perfect strategy by any means. Ultimately, Hawks isn't able to finish this without getting close, and the closer he gets, the harder it gets to dodge in time. Whether or not he can pull that off is very debatable. This is especially true because when Deku is shown dodging at 30% with danger sense isn't Lady Nagant's limit. She can massively boost the velocity of her shots to the point where it took Deku combining his quirks to simulate 100% level speed. That is All Might level speed. If Nagant sees Hawks getting close and she gets desperate enough, that has a big chance of just ending the fight. The only drawback is that this can jam her gun and leave her helpless if it doesn't work. I just don't see Hawks being able to dodge that without proper countermeasures. Although this does really depend on the kind of environment they're fighting in too. When I picture the fight, I imagine the same kind of cityscape that they are both probably used to fighting in. But if you just have them duke it out on a flat plain where Hawks has no cover, then yeah, he probably just dies. But if we give them a more complex environment and he does manage to get close enough, that's probably a good enough win condition. While Lady Nagant isn't helpless in close combat, she was only shown able to catch Deku off guard when Deku was trying to capture her. In a hypothetical battle to the death, Hawks wins if he closes the distance. He has literal swords and he knows how to use them. This isn't to mention that his feathers are good for assisting him in combat before he even gets within striking range. He is shown using his feathers to pick things up, carry people away, and catch falling rubble. They aren't powerful enough to deal with the higher levels of strength in the series, but they can really mess with Nagant and possibly even prevent her from taking a decisive shot when he starts to get close to her. And this kind of brings us to the other important variable in this fight that really kind of changes the whole dynamic of it. Which version of Lady Nagant is Hawks fighting? We already established that we're using Hawks at his prime for this, since him with his wings burnt just doesn't stand a chance. But with Nagant, it's important whether or not she has access to Airwalk or not. Without Airwalk, she would have a lot of trouble trouble repositioning against a speed-based opponent like Hawks. As we have well established, if he gets close, then Nagant doesn't have a whole lot of options. But with Airwalk, she can just fire a shot and zoom off in the other direction, and she is really fast when she does. At least she was fast enough to give 30% Deku trouble, dashing around him and firing off shots. He was only able to counter by reading her trajectories to find her. It wasn't him actually reacting to her movement itself. In that case, this fight really becomes a game of chase where Hawks tries to close the distance while Lady Nagant tries to keep it, while also going for the long distance kill. And if the fight goes to this stage, then Hawks most likely takes it. Now hold on, what I just said sounds like Lady Nagant should win, right? Because if she can keep running away, she could eventually get the chance to land a good shot and end the fight. But Hawks has two advantages that really make this a likely win for him. One is that if this fight really ends up being a chase, then the battle becomes one of attrition, with who can outlast the other. On the other hand, Lady Nagant is gonna eventually run out of ammo, and that's when we run into her real weakness: balding. I'm well aware that it would be a long fight to get to that point, and there's a good chance one of them would kill the other before it did, but it is a big advantage to keep in mind. If the fight really does become a kind of stalemate, it's not one that would last forever. Now, the most important advantage that Hawks has is intel. He knows who Lady Nagant is. He knows about her quirk and what it can do. The difference is that Nagant has no idea who Hawks is. She's been in prison this whole time, and while she could probably get accustomed to his flight and speed, his sensory abilities and the precise control of his feathers would be really hard for someone to just get used to. Which puts her in a really bad position, because either Hawks catches her by surprise early in the fight, or he wins a battle of stamina. The only way she wins is if she ups her shot velocity and just ends it like that, since that should be too fast for him to dodge up close. It really depends on her decision making, which to her credit isn't bad. Like, she never makes a real mistake in her fight against Deku. She just didn't know what he was capable of and was constantly hit with new abilities. So with that in mind, if you think that Nagant would just load up that supercharged shot and end the fight, yeah, maybe. There's not a great argument against that. Hawks just also has enough advantages where he can probably end the fight at certain points too. And that's where I direct things at you all. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, and I don't think the battle is all that clear-cut, but who do you think takes it in the end? Who would win in this battle to the death? I can really see it going either way, and it depends a lot on just how smart and skilled you think they are compared to each other. Let me know your own thoughts in the comments, and do like the video and subscribe if you want more videos like this, but that's all I have to say on the topic. I hope you all have a good day and take care.